Get ready for the most explosive legal drama to ever hit Roloff Farms, because what we are uncovering today changes absolutely everything you thought you knew about the dynamic between Matt and Amy. We are not talking about arguments over pumpkins or property lines anymore. We are talking about federal airspace, high-tech surveillance, and a shocking courtroom showdown that has supposedly left Matt and Caryn humiliated and legally barred from looking in Amy's direction. Sources are buzzing about a secret lawsuit regarding a drone incident that goes far beyond a simple hobby gone wrong. We are talking about a targeted act of spying that pushed Amy to finally drag her ex-husband in front of a judge to scream, "Get out of my airspace." The allegations are chilling. The flight logs are damning. And the verdict, it is a total game changer for the future of the show and the family. You need to hear the details of how Chris and Amy turned the tables on Matt's surveillance state. Before we dive into these insider reports in the courtroom battle that is shaking the foundation of Little People Big World, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to LPBW Update. We are digging deeper than anyone else to bring you the theories and news the network doesn't want you to see, so turn on those notifications because you do not want to miss what comes next. Let's set the stage for what insiders are calling the drone war of Roloff Farms. If you have been watching the show for years, you know that Matt Roloff and his son, Jeremy, have always been obsessed with gadgets. We have seen countless scenes of them flying drones over the pumpkin patches, capturing those sweeping cinematic shots of the property. It was always presented as a harmless hobby or a way to market the farm. But according to new exclusive theories circulating among those close to production, that hobby allegedly took a dark and twisted turn. The tension between Matt and Amy has never really gone away, even after the divorce, and even after Amy moved off the big farm and into her own place. We all know Amy wanted a fresh start. She wanted a sanctuary where she could be with Chris Marek, away from Matt's controlling eyes. But reports suggest that Matt struggled to let go of that control, and his curiosity about what was happening at Amy's new place reportedly morphed into obsession. Here is the scenario that has everyone talking. It was supposed to be a perfect evening. Amy was hosting a large private garden party in her backyard specifically to celebrate Chris Marek's birthday. It was an intimate gathering with close friends, family, and laughter. Amy felt safe. She felt secure in her new home, believing she had finally established boundaries. But just a few miles away at the farm, the atmosphere was reportedly very different. Sources speculate that Matt and Caryn were consumed with curiosity. They knew the party was happening. They knew people were gathering. And the theory is that the temptation to see who was there and what was being said was just too strong to resist. This is where the technology comes in. Matt owns high-end drones. These aren't cheap toys you buy at a department store. These are professional-grade machines with 4K cameras, stabilization gimbals, and incredible zoom capabilities. They are tools that can see license plates from hundreds of feet in the air. On the night of Chris's birthday party, while Amy was toasting to her husband and guests were mingling on the patio, a low buzzing sound began to cut through the music. At first, guests might have thought it was a large insect or maybe a distant leaf blower, but the sound got closer. It got louder. It became a persistent, distinct whine that hovered directly overhead. According to the narrative being pieced together by insiders, this wasn't a flyover. A flyover implies a plane passing by on its way to somewhere else. This was a hover. The object positioned itself outside the perimeter of Amy's backyard and then allegedly descended. It dropped altitude. It wasn't filming the sunset. It was pointed directly at the party. Specifically, it was hovering near the kitchen window and the patio area where the most private conversations were taking place. 2, Matt and Caryn operating the controls back at the farm. This might have felt like harmless snooping, just checking in on the neighbors, just seeing what the X is up to. But to Amy and her guests, this was a terrifying violation. It is the digital equivalent of someone standing in your bushes, peeking through your blinds. But Matt and Caryn made a critical miscalculation. They forgot who Amy is married to. Chris Marek is a real estate professional, but he is also incredibly tech savvy. He knows about property lines, he knows about photography, and he knows about drones. While other guests were looking up in confusion, Chris went into action. He didn't just wave his fist at the sky. He reportedly grabbed a camera with a high-powered zoom lens of his own. As the drone hovered there, blinking its recording lights, Chris snapped a series of rapid-fire, high-resolution photos of the underbelly of the aircraft. This is the smoking gun. Every legally registered drone above a certain weight must display an FAA registration number. It is like a license plate for aircraft. Because the drone was hovering so low, insiders suggest as low as 40 or 50 feet to get a clear shot of the guests, Chris was allegedly able to capture a crystal clear image of that registration number. The party ended on a sour note, with Amy feeling violated and watched in her own sanctuary, but the legal wheels were already turning. Chris ran the number, and of course, the registration reportedly came back to one Matthew Roloff. Amy was done playing nice. For years, she has dealt with Matt's micromanaging and his need to be involved in every aspect of her life, but this was different. This was physical and digital intrusion. She contacted a lawyer immediately. The legal filing that sources are whispering about wasn't just a complaint to the homeowners association. It was a full-blown lawsuit for trespass and invasion of privacy. Now, you might be wondering, can you sue someone for flying a drone? This is where the legal battle gets absolutely fascinating. Aviation law is complex. Generally, the FAA controls the sky. But property rights extend to what is called the immediate reaches of the airspace above a home. You own the ground and you own the air directly above it to a height necessary for the use and enjoyment of your land. If someone flies a drone at 400 feet, that is usually legal. But if they fly it at 40 feet, hovering outside your window, looking at your guests, that is considered a physical trespass, just as if they had walked onto your lawn. The lawsuit reportedly named both Matt and Caryn, alleging that they acted in concert to invade Amy's privacy. The claims were explosive. They accused the couple of targeted surveillance, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of wiretapping laws. That last one is key. If that drone was recording audio, and many high-end models do, and it picked up private conversations inside a home or in a private backyard, that could be a felony depending on the state laws regarding consent. Amy wasn't just looking for an apology. She was looking for a legal shield. The pretrial phase was reportedly a nightmare for Matt. His legal team likely tried to dismiss the case, arguing that the air is free and that Matt was simply inspecting agricultural land that bordered Amy's property, or that the drone had drifted off course due to wind. They tried to paint it as an accident, a simple mistake by a hobbyist, but Amy's lawyer wasn't buying it. They subpoenaed the flight logs. This is the detail that sinks the defense. Modern drones record everything. They record GPS coordinates, altitude, speed, and flight duration. The manufacturer was compelled to hand over the data for the specific drone registered to Matt for the night in question. The data did not show a drone drifting in the wind. It did not show a high-altitude survey of pumpkin fields. According to the theories surrounding this case, the data showed a flight path that launched from Roloff Farms, flew directly to Amy's coordinates, and then entered a holding pattern. The logs reportedly showed the drone spent 27 minutes loitering over Amy's property. 27 minutes. That is almost the entire battery life of a standard drone. It implies they flew it there, hovered until the battery was critical, and then flew it back. Even worse, The altitude data allegedly corroborated Chris's photos showing the device dipping to altitudes as low as 40 feet. There is no agricultural reason to fly a drone 40 feet above a residential backyard at night during a dinner party. The oops defense was dead in the water. As the case moved toward a hearing, the tension in the family reached a breaking point. Jeremy and Zach were reportedly horrified. They know drones, they know the etiquette. You do not fly over people, and you certainly do not spy on family members. It caused a rift that made the farm negotiations look like a playground squabble. Matt was trying to spin the narrative, telling friends that Amy was being dramatic and overreacting to a toy. But the judge was not amused. The courtroom scene, described by insiders, was tense. On one side, you have Amy looking dignified but furious, flanked by Chris and her shark of a lawyer. On the other side, Matt and Caryn looking uncomfortable, their usual reality TV charm useless in a court of law. The judge presiding over the case was not interested in reality TV drama. He was interested in privacy rights. Amy's lawyer opened with a blistering statement. He argued that a person's home is their castle, and in the modern age, the walls of that castle extend upward. He painted a picture of Matt not as a lovable grandfather, but as a controlling ex-husband, using technology to maintain a grip on a woman who had moved on. He framed the drone not as a camera, but as an extension of Matt's eyes peering into a space where he was no longer welcome. The defense tried to rely on the ambiguity of airspace laws. They called their own experts to testify that the FAA controls all airspace and that a homeowner doesn't own the sky. It was a technical argument, a cold legal maneuver designed to bypass the moral creepiness of the act. They argued that because the drone didn't touch the ground, no trespass occurred. It was a risky strategy because it ignored the emotional impact and the privacy violation. Then came the moment that turned the tide. Amy's team called their star witness an aviation expert specializing in unmanned aerial systems and FAA regulations. This wasn't a character witness. This was a man who deals in hard facts and federal codes. When he took the stand, the air left the room. Amy's lawyer asked him a simple, direct question. Can a drone legally hover 50 feet above a private residence and film through a window? The expert's response was the nail in the coffin. He stated clearly, absolutely not. He explained that while the FAA controls navigable airspace, the area immediately surrounding a home is protected. He cited the concept of curtilage, the area around a home where privacy expectations are highest. He told the court that hovering at that altitude constitutes a hazard and a trespass, but he didn't stop there. He brought up the flight logs. He projected the flight path onto a screen for the judge to see. It showed a deliberate jagged red line hovering right over the patio area. He pointed out the stability of the hover, proving it wasn't wind. He pointed out the camera angle data, which showed the lens was tilted down and forward directly at the house, not at the horizon. He looked at the judge and said, legally and technically, there is no ambiguity here. This was a controlled, sustained observation of private property. It is an open and shut case of intentional intrusion. Matt's face reportedly went pale. The technical defense had crumbled. The hard data proved intent. They weren't looking at crops. They were looking at Amy. The realization rippled through the courtroom that this wasn't just a petty dispute. It was a significant legal precedent being set in real time involving reality TV stars. The judge looked at the evidence, looked at Matt, and then looked at Amy. The silence was deafening as everyone waited for the final ruling. This wasn't just about a fine anymore. This was about a permanent legal barrier between Matt and Amy. We are going to stop here for just a moment because the second half of this legal showdown gets even more intense. We are talking about the judge's blistering final comments, the financial penalty, and the permanent injunction that legally forces Matt to keep his distance. If you want to know exactly what the judge said and how this changes the future of the show, make sure you are subscribed because we are going to cover the verdict and the aftermath in our next segment. But stick around because we are going to continue right now into the judge's ruling. The tension in that courtroom was thick enough to cut with a knife as the judge shuffled the papers on the bench and looked down at the defense table. You have to understand that in civil cases, usually the judge is dispassionate and purely administrative, but according to the observers in the room on this day, the judge was visibly agitated. He had seen the photos taken by Chris Marek. He had analyzed the flight logs showing the drone loitering outside a bedroom window, and he had heard the flimsy excuses from Matt's legal team. This wasn't just a ruling on a property dispute. This was a ruling on human decency, and the judge was about to deliver a verbal dressing down that would leave Matt Roloff absolutely reeling. The courtroom went silent as the judge began to speak. He didn't use legal jargon to hide his disgust. He spoke plainly. He looked directly at Matt and Caryn and said a person's home is their castle, and that includes the airspace immediately above it. He leaned forward, emphasizing every word, as he continued saying the defendant's actions were a flagrant and, frankly, creepy violation of the plaintiff's right to privacy. This was not an accidental flyover. This was not agricultural surveying. This was a targeted act of surveillance. Can you imagine being a public figure, a grandfather, and a business owner, and having a federal judge call your actions creepy on the official record? That word hung in the air. The judge was dismantling the entire harmless hobby defense piece by piece. He noted that the duration of the flight and the specific altitude changes indicated a voyeuristic intent. He stated that Amy Roloff, despite being a reality television personality, retains the right to a private life within the sanctity of her own home, especially when the cameras are off. Then came the financial penalty. Now we know Matt Roloff is a wealthy man. He has the farm, he has the show, he has multiple business ventures. So, when the judge announced the damages, the number might sound small to some, but the message behind it was massive. The court awarded Amy $50,000 for the trespass and invasion of privacy. $50,000. To Matt, that might be the cost of a new piece of farm equipment or a renovation project, but in the legal world, this is a significant sum for a privacy tort. It wasn't just reimbursement for legal fees, it was punitive. It was the court saying what you did was wrong and you are going to pay for it. But the money was not the worst part for Matt. The money he can write a check for and forget about. The real hammer blow cold came next. The judge wasn't done. He realized that a fine wouldn't necessarily stop someone with Matt's resources and obsession with control. He needed to ensure Amy's safety and peace of mind permanently. So he issued a permanent injunction. The judge declared furthermore, I am issuing a permanent injunction prohibiting the defendants from operating any unmanned aerial vehicle within 500 feet of Ms. Roloff's property line. This is the game changer. 500 feet is a massive radius. It essentially creates a no-fly zone over Amy's entire neighborhood for Matt and Caryn. If Matt even thinks about launching a drone from a nearby road or trying to get a peek from a distance, he would be in contempt of court. He would face immediate legal consequences, potentially even jail time for violating a court order. This legal barrier stripped Matt of his high-tech eyes. It forced him to stay in his lane physically and digitally. The reaction in the courtroom was immediate. Sources say Amy let out a breath she had been holding for months. She looked over at Chris, and there was a sense of profound relief. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't being dramatic. She was right. The law had validated her feelings of violation. On the other side of the aisle, the mood was grim. Matt reportedly stared straight ahead, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. Caryn, who had been dragged into this mess by association, looked mortified. The narrative they had tried to spin, that they were just fun-loving grandparents playing with toys, had been completely destroyed. They were legally branded as privacy violators. Now, let's talk about the aftermath, because the ripple effects of this verdict are going to tear through the fabric of the show and the family dynamics in ways we are only just beginning to understand. First, there is the public relations disaster. You cannot underestimate how damaging this is for Matt's brand. He has always tried to present himself as the visionary, the leader of the farm, the man who just wants everyone to get along while he builds his empire. But this lawsuit paints a picture of a man who is pretty obsessive and unable to move on. The headline, Matt and Caryn, the creepy drone spies, is not something you can easily shake off. It validates everything Amy has said for years about his controlling nature. It makes viewers look back at old episodes with a new perspective, wondering how much of his behavior was actually surveillance and manipulation disguised as management. Then there is the impact on the family. We are hearing exclusive theories that this lawsuit has deepened the divide between the siblings. Zach and Tori, who have already distanced themselves from the farm and from Matt, are reportedly firmly on Amy's side. They understand the importance of privacy, especially with their own children. The idea that their father would use a drone to spy on their mother is allegedly horrifying to them. It confirms their decision to move away and keep their boundaries strong. Jeremy and Audrey, who also love drones and farm life, are reportedly in an awkward position. They know the technical side of things. They know that what Matt did violates every rule of responsible drone ownership. It is getting harder and harder for anyone in the family to defend Matt's actions. And what about the show? TLC is in a panic. The producers thrive on drama, yes, but this is the kind of dark legal drama that makes filming difficult. How do you film a family gathering when one party has a permanent injunction against the other regarding surveillance? The tension is no longer just uncomfortable, it is legally codified. Amy has proven that she will not be bullied and that she has the receipts to back it up. She has set a powerful boundary. She has shown the world that her new life with Chris is protected and that the Roloff matriarch is not to be trifled with. But here is the most delicious twist in this entire saga that insiders are whispering about. There is a theory that this drone incident wasn't the first time. Sources speculate that the reason Chris was so quick to grab his camera and get that registration number is because they had suspected this was happening before. They think this might have been going on for months, with Matt keeping tabs on who was coming and going from Amy's house. The lawsuit was just the moment they finally caught him red-handed. If that is true, it implies a level of obsession that is truly disturbing. It suggests that even after the divorce, even after the property settlement, and even after Amy sold her share of the farm, Matt still felt he had a right to know what she was doing. The financial penalty is paid, the injunction is signed, but the emotional fallout is permanent. Amy walked out of that courthouse a winner, not just because she got a check, but because she reclaimed her freedom. She proved that no matter how much money or technology Matt has, he cannot control her anymore. She is the dignified victim who stood up to the bully and won. Meanwhile, Matt and Caryn are left to pick up the pieces of their reputation. They have to explain to the world why a judge found their behavior creepy. They have to deal with the fact that they are legally banned from flying a toy in a specific zip code. It is humiliating. It is petty. And it is absolutely exactly what they deserved. As we look forward to the next season of Little People, Big World, you have to watch the interactions with new eyes. When you see Matt acting cool and collected, remember the drone. Remember the flight logs. Remember the 27 minutes he spent hovering over his ex-wife's birthday party. The happy facade of the farm is cracking, and the truth is finally coming out. Amy Roloff is not just a survivor, she is a fighter, and she just won the biggest battle of her post-divorce life. We will be tracking the fallout of this lawsuit closely. There are rumors that Matt is planning an appeal or a public statement to try and salvage his image, but legal experts say the judgment is solid. The flight data doesn't lie, the pictures don't lie, and now the court record doesn't lie. This is the new reality for the Roloffs, a family divided not just by fences, but by federal airspace regulations and restraining orders. Make sure you are subscribed to LPBW Update, because as soon as we get more details on the appeal or any leaked footage from the drone itself, we will be the first to bring it to you. The drama on the farm is far from over, but for now, the skies over Amy's house are finally clear. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.